Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 913. Well, we are continuing with our interviews of star finalists for the FFA National Convention 2020. Today, we're speaking with Blake Kirchhoff. Now, he has been on the show before. Back in 2017, we profiled him when he was a National Proficiency winner for forage production. Well, here he is back on the show as a National Star Finalist for agribusiness. I'm very, very excited to speak with Blake and the fact that he's been on the show before, and look what he's done. Now here he is back. So we're going to jump into this interview with Blake Kirchhoff right now. Blake, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Nice to be here. Really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, good. It's great to speak with you again. And so you and I were just reminiscing, but I think you were featured on the show, and we think in 2017, right?
Yep, I believe that's about the right time, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely recognize the name, and I should have looked it up ahead of time, but I'm confident about that. I'm happy to have you back on, and man, it's great to catch up with you and do an update. You were on the show before, and obviously you were achieving things then, but here you are now as a star finalist in agribusiness. I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's great. You've come a long way.
Yeah, for sure. It's I don't know. It's definitely been a whirlwind the past couple of weeks, but over the last many years I've been doing this project. It's been a slow build, and it's nice to see it kind of get to this level, and I'm really excited to be here. That's for sure. At this high stage, so
that is yeah.
For me, that's for sure.
It should be. I mean, you've been selected out of over 700,000 students in the FFA, one of the top 4 in agribusiness. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
that is great. Well, good
really
for you. Now,
odds, yeah.
What's that?
Those are some really incredible odds, really, when you start putting the numbers to it.
Yeah, you start looking at those numbers, it'll blow your mind. Yeah. Well, so where are we talking to you at right now?
Yep. Currently, I'm in my house in Manhattan, Kansas. I'm a senior here at K-State, majoring in agronomy. So don't have any classes this morning. So that's where I'm at right now. But
okay.
Yeah.
So a senior majoring in agronomy, and are you graduating this May then?
Yep, I'll graduate in May. So.
Okay, very good. Are you guys able to go to class, or you have to do everything online right now?
We can go to class. It's like a hybrid style. So some days I get to go to class and some days I'm online, but it kind of works out since I'm a senior. A lot of my classes are pretty small anyhow. So in general, I'm in class more than I'm online, but it's about a 50-50 split sometimes. So.
Okay, very good. Now, with graduation coming up in May, are you continuing on with your education? You getting out into the workforce? What are you thinking?
Yep, the plan is to head back to South Central Nebraska. I'm going to continue haying in the summers, and then I'm going to work for the family farm in like the fall, in the winter and the spring and stuff like that, and kind of head back into production ag kind of in my South Central Nebraska, North Central Kansas area.
Okay. And your family farm is in Superior, Nebraska, or that area?
Well, yeah, it's in that area. That's where I went to school, but our hometown is like Hardy, which is just, 7 miles east of Superior. So,
okay.
So, yeah.
What part of the state is that in?
I said extreme South Central Nebraska. So, like, the place where we live is only a mile from the Kansas border.
Okay.
And then probably over half of our stuff is in Kansas. So we're just right there on the border, and, a lot of back and forth. So centralizing the state east to west, kind of maybe a little bit more towards the east, but pretty well central, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. Wow. So you'll be heading back there. You'll be continuing to run your hay business or your haying business, and then working on the farm when that slows down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll talk about more. We'll get into that here more in a second. So here you are. You're a senior in college. Have you already received your American degree?
No, I'm getting that this fall as well.
This fall. Wow, big year for you. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so you're getting your American degree this fall as well, and here you are. You're a senior in college. So how long have you been in or involved with the FFA total?
Yeah, for sure. Back in my 7th and 8th grade year, I was involved in like a quiz bowl team for the FFA back home in Superior. So I did that, and I don't even know what year that was anymore. I can't tell you how long ago that was, but it's been a while for sure. I haven't been involved in any collegiate FFA. There's just not a program here.
Mm-hmm.
But I've since I had never gotten my American, I've always kind of been involved still just to get my record up to date and all that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
it's been a
So
while for sure.
yeah, so there's no collegiate FFA chapter there at K-State, but you're staying involved through your chapter at Superior High School. Is that right? So you can continue to build the record book and obviously reach these levels. Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool.
pretty well.
Okay. What kind of farming does your family do back home?
Yep. So it's just basically row crops, corn and beans, and then we do have some cattle, but most of our stuff is row crops. Yeah, we got some irrigation, but other than that, nothing crazy or wild. So
Okay. So corn and beans. And yeah, it's interesting. I've been learning quite a bit. I do the show. Well, I'm hosting the Pioneer Tour podcast. Previously, before that, I was doing the Corn Revolution podcast for Pioneer Seed. And so I've been learning and talking with agronomists and all sorts of people, seed breeders from your region in South Central Nebraska, all the way through Iowa and stuff. It's been interesting to learn about the different dynamics of the different areas. And I've been learning, we've been talking a little bit about sorghum and some sorghum that's being grown in Kansas. Do you have some of that popping up around your area in Nebraska?
Not in Nebraska, but we have some neighbors who grow sorghum. It seems to be less and less every year.
Okay.
Just the markets aren't quite there like they used to be. Like the elevators aren't taking it or not bidding for it. So, but yeah, there's still some of it in the area.
Okay.
And south you go where it gets drier. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Okay. Well, so we know what the farm is back home. We know how long you've been in the FFA. When you were going through, did you serve as an officer or did you do anything kind of outside of the SAE?
Oh, yeah. I was really involved in like the CDEs and the LSEs, and I was an officer. I was a junior officer, and then my junior year, I was the vice president, and my senior year, I was president of our FFA chapter. So I was, heavily involved in all that and, getting the club organized and all the different projects we do throughout the year. Of course, every club has all that kind of stuff that
right.
See throughout the year, that's for sure. But I did try to be a state officer, but I didn't get that. But other than that, I'd say I was heavily involved in all aspects. I just can't think anything else off the top of my head right now that I was, pretty well about everything I was involved in. So.
Mm-hmm. And during that time, did you make it over to the national convention at least once?
Oh yeah, I think I went three times while I was in high school, and then once when I was like a freshman in college. That's when I got the forage production when I was a freshman in college when I got that. So 4 times.
And the forage production, was that like a national proficiency or something like that?
Yep. That was a national proficiency there in 2017. So
awesome, man! You're spoiled. You've done great.
Yeah.
That is great. Well, I know you. I say you're spoiled, but you've achieved it all because I know what you've been doing. Well, let's do this.
Yeah.
I'd love to. This is kind of the last hurrah here in FFA, so I'd love to acknowledge who those FFA advisors were that kind of helped you along the way.
Yeah. So the whole time I was in high school, we only had one advisor, and it's Mr. Seth Going, and he really did a good job of helping me get everything organized, like with the book work. Once you start getting so many years of stuff and trying to put it in that one book and figure out what you want to highlight and what you can fit in there, it takes a lot of organization and thought, and just bouncing ideas off of him was really helpful. And it's a lot of work, and it takes a team sometimes, but really appreciate all that help for sure.
Yeah. I know Seth. I met him at the national convention a few years ago, and he actually appeared on a course that we made to teach entrepreneurship to FFA students. Really nice man.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Well, let's do this really quick, Blake. I want to acknowledge a couple of our great sponsors. Everybody, of course, I want to talk about Lacrosse Footwear. You can find them over at lacrossefootwear.com. And, love to talk about them during our FFA interviews, of course, because they are so proud to sponsor the FFA through $25,000 in scholarships and jackets through the Give the Gift of Blue program every single year. And, of course, we use their Alpha Range boots right here on our farm in Idaho every single day of the year, and we want you to do the same. Good. Check out everything they've got to offer you over at lacrossefootwear.com. And then, of course, Powder River livestock handling equipment, just the finest in squeeze chutes, sweep tubs, runways, alleyways, whatever you need, livestock panels. Powder River's been designing it for over 80 years for some of the toughest to handle cattle we have in the U.S. out here in the West coming in off of our rangelands. And they've developed equipment that can handle those cattle. They certainly can handle yours. So check them out, everything they've got to offer you over at powderriver.com, and let your local farm and ranch retailer know you want to see that Powder River green out in their sales yard so you can also purchase the finest in livestock handling equipment. All right, well, Blake, let's get back to you. So just tell us what your business, what your supervised agricultural experience has been.
Yeah, so, it's grown a lot, but it essentially started out as just custom small square baling. I had a sheep SAE way back, and I thought that I wanted to do that a lot more, is have sheep. So I didn't have any way to feed big round bales, so I knew I had to get some small squares, and couldn't find anyone in my area to sell them to me, or they just didn't have them. So I decided, you know what, I'll just buy an old baler. I'll make some for myself just to feed throughout. And then I might as well just do some custom hang since no one else in my area is doing it. And, just to kind of help offset the cost of that baler and just do that for a couple of years. Well, by the time I bought my baler, it was a little more expensive than I was planning on, and I already sold the sheep. But, after going, I was like, I can for sure, make this a full-time deal. So kind of started getting into that full-time. First year was kind of slow, just kind of getting my bearings and, running the equipment and talking to people and stuff like that. But it soon grew to custom big round baling, and I started renting a swather to take care of a big job I had. So, I was doing all that, and then I started getting into custom or contracted hay sales. So I was kind of brokering these hay sales. Most of the time it was just small square bales. Since I don't do any of my own ground, I don't have any small squares personally for sale. I was helping producers I'd bale for sell their hay, so that I had more consistent work every year, because if not, some of them don't use that many small square bales a year. They only need 10 or 20 every 10 years. So, I needed some more consistent work. So after I started helping them sell their hay, I started getting, yearly jobs of, a couple, 300, 400. And that really helped me grow in that aspect. And then I also started doing some custom alfalfa seeding in the fall. A lot of guys, or fall or spring, I do either one, but a lot of guys get too busy, planting corn, beans, or harvesting stuff like that, and they don't have time to get it in. And once again, it helped me get more consistent work and kind of build up my acreage base there. So I started doing that as well. I think that's pretty well it. But yeah, now it's basically just custom hang, start to finish up in swath, rake, bale. I can help you sell it if you want to. And then I do the seeding as well. So that's essentially what I do if I'm not missing anything. But I think that's the gist of it without getting into hours and hours of detail. So,
are you still renting a swather, or have you bought one at this point?
No. So actually, I moved to pretty well bought all my own equipment. I own my own tractor. I own my own big round baler. Own my own small square baler and accumulator. I own a swather on shares with my mom and dad because they had the one previously. Or they bought one a couple of years ago. So then when they traded that one off, I paid the difference, whatever, So now we're 50-50 on that. That's about it. So pieces, but that's it.
Your story kind of made me chuckle. You learned one of the lessons of entrepreneurship right off the bat, which is you were shopping and you were going to all this trouble to buy the small baler so you could have small bales for your sheep. And by the time you got it, you were done with sheep. And it was like, well, what do we do now? So, I mean, when you had that moment in time, how did you decide, well, I'm going to keep this thing and I'm going to start this into a business, even though my original purpose for buying it is no longer here?
Yeah. So really, I don't know. I've always been pretty mechanically inclined, and I like running machinery. So, as a 14-year-old kid, that was kind of enticing, just to run some of my own equipment. But, I kind of saw the upside in the market and how there was really no small square bales or balers in the area. And I was like, what, this is something that I really could get into pretty quickly. And I think there's room to grow in a relatively quick manner. And, that might be part of the reason why I got rid of the sheep too, is, I started seeing what kind of upside I had with the custom hang, into that, and kind of just weighed my options a bit. But, I think I was done with the sheep anyhow. I was kind of looking for a good reason to get out of them, but
okay.
It worked out, but that's for sure.
And when you were first starting this and you were buying the baler, were you growing some hay on your family's property, or were you having to lease ground to grow hay? How was that working?
Yeah, so the family farm, it does have some hay ground, not that much, maybe 50 50 acres total maybe. And at that time we had some wheat. So we had some wheat straw,
Okay.
but not like a terrible lot, but just, I mean, enough to get at least a good start and get my bearings going like that.
Okay. So interesting. So it's grown over time. Now, with you brokering hay for other people and you helping them get small bales sold, I got a couple questions about that. My first question, I guess, is how do you find the people who need the small bales? How did you? Because that's valuable, right? You've got the connections.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the customer base you can plug other people into. How did you develop that customer base to be able to do that?
Yeah. Well, the first couple things I did was I just put flyers, everywhere like everyone does, lumber yards. Lumber yards was a pretty good one actually, because that one had a lot of traffic. That one worked out pretty good. The co-ops, all that kind of stuff around. The other thing I started was this was kind of when like, I don't know if you guys have them, like those Facebook like town buy sell trade websites.
Yep.
We're just kind of getting up and going. So I just started like putting advertisements on there, like hey, straw bales for sale. This is what they're costing. Can deliver. All this kind of stuff. And I sold quite a few on that. And, if I sold quite a few on that, but there's only like ones and twos, because like people buy small straw bales for their gardens, or in fall time, I sold a lot for decorations. So sold a lot that way. But the thing that really helped doing it on Facebook is a lot of people saw my name and saw what was going on. So maybe I didn't sell like, the 300 bale off of Facebook often, but people saw my name, and then, I always put my phone number on the ad. So then I'd always get a call, not always, but pretty soon I'd start getting calls in like the spring and the summer, like, hey, we're looking for like, 150 straw bales, can you get that to us? It's like, oh, absolutely, So it really just got my name out there to like a ton of people really quick. And then after that, it's just kind of grown, and now people know that I usually have some kind of small square somewhere that is for sale. So Facebook really was the big one.
Gotcha. So you kind of primed the pump with Facebook and with the flyers, and then after that, word of mouth kind of took over, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Word of mouth is big now.
Okay. And then my follow-up question on that is, these producers who didn't have a market for small bales, and maybe I missed it before, but if they didn't have a market for small bales, but they could sell round bales, they could sell square bales or whatever, large square bales, I should say, why did they want to have small bales at all?
Yeah. Well, a lot of these guys are like, when I say producers, it's like farmers. So they got, a couple cows and calves, something like that, or maybe they feed steers a year. So they're feeding most everything else they got, and there's not really a whole lot of big squares in my area. The farther south you go, there's some, but right now, I don't know why, but this big square bales never really made it in for some reason. And I have to kind of figure that out, but most everyone does some kind of big round bales just to feed their own livestock through the winter. So they just never got into small square bales because, they didn't want to feed that many. And if with the ones they did get, they just get to calve out, So if they had a good calving year, maybe they only used 3 or 4 small square bales. So they buy 100 and, it'd take them forever to get through all that hay in small squares. So that's kind of why they messed with it, because they didn't really have a use for it, consistent for years. So that's kind of how I worked that niche a little bit, because I didn't have to build any more sheds. They kind of already had it stored, but just when I put that new stuff in there, I start trying to sell it so it doesn't sit in there forever, kind of keep the quality up. And then they didn't really have to do anything. They just kind of had to collect a check at the end of the year and say how many small squares they wanted me to make. So
okay. Well, I mean, that's my question. Why would they want to make small squares at all? If they don't want to go out and market them themselves, did you convince them, hey, you can make a premium on these small bales?
Yeah. Yep. So originally why they wanted to do it is because they ran out of their big like stockpile of hay, small squares for like calving or whatever. So like, I don't have any more. Why don't I have this kid come over here and make, 50 just so I can have them for calving? So then I go over and make the 50, they get them all stacked. And then I'd call them a couple weeks later, like, hey, I have someone who's looking for 5 small square straw bales. Would you want to sell some? And they'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Why not? I don't need this many. I can get rid of them. So they'd sell those 5, and then, maybe they'd sell a couple more, and they'd be like, you know what? Maybe I'll have you do some more next year, because if you can get some of these, why not? Because it's like, I don't really have to do any work for it. All I had to do is just say, how many I want and what type I want you to make. That's kind of how it worked out. So, it definitely was a lot of selling on my point to both the producer to get involved in this and the people to buy it. So I was like, I had to be a little salesman there for a while and just really put some miles on.
Gotcha. Okay, but they saw the value in, I guess, a little bit of diversification when it came to their hay.
Yeah, pretty well. Yep.
Okay. Ah, that's great. Good job.
Yeah.
Do you have a name for your business, Blake?
Yeah, it's Blake Kirchhoff Custom Hang. I used to call it just Blake Kirchhoff Custom Baling, but since I've grown so much, I need to change the name to Hang, so it's more representative of what I do. So, yep, just Blake Kirchhoff Custom Hang.
Okay, man, that's great. Okay, well, so here you are. You're graduating, and you're going to continue to operate this business. Are you going to continue to grow it? Do you want this to be your full-time income aside from farming as you go forward, or what are your thoughts going into the future?
Yeah, well, I have no plans of, you know, cutting it off or quitting. I'm thinking I'm kind of getting to the point where it's going to have to get really big and start running like a huge amount of area, because a lot of the stuff in my area is corn and beans. So, I have a huge swath, like it's like 300 square miles where I make hay. So it's like either I'm going to have to get really big and start having to hire people to help get it done, or I can kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of, how much is growth worth to you. So I'm thinking I'm for sure going to keep it this size because I know I can handle it pretty well by myself. But, I'm going to pick up a couple more acres, but, I'm not going to go out and try to look for the big jobs, hundreds of miles away because I think it just costs too much for what it's worth for me, especially because I have the family farm. We irrigate during the summer, so I have stuff to do on the farm as well. It's like I'm not like not busy during the summer, but kind of the base that I've built right now, I can for sure take on acres, but I'm going to try to keep it close together because, boy, I can spend so much time driving just between fields and on the roads and stuff. That's not real efficient. And, I could get faster tractors, but that costs more money. And then I really got to get going for it. So it's like, I don't know. The level I've made it right now, my profit is pretty decent. And, I'm not having to buy like the really expensive fast equipment to get it done. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It's opportunity cost, like everything, but I really like how it's set up right now. So I think I'm going to at least try to keep it this size. I'll probably try to grow a little bit, especially if there's any hay like between stuff I already do. I'll for sure try to pick that up, but I'm not trying to expand my area of coverage that much more. It's not that feasible for me right now. So.
Yeah, it's always very interesting how much you have to grow and how much you have to increase your risk and your exposure to possibly make the same amount of money or maybe just a little bit more. Sometimes the cost benefit or the risk versus reward don't balance out quite as much as you think they might.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. But, of course, the hay season just got done, so we'll think about it over winter. If anything comes up, you don't have to see about it then. But for right now, it's just hard to figure. But.
Okay. Well, how is running this business and starting this business, how has that impacted the classes you've taken throughout college and your choices of classes?
Yeah, so I'm in like precision ag option here at K-State. So most of my courses are pretty well kind of set in stone. Not set in stone, but they're laid out pretty well. I really like that. But I've taken a lot of like GIS courses and like mapping courses, making prescriptions and things like that. So that hasn't been like super applicable to haying because, I don't use a prescription to do anything like that. But it's definitely been interesting. I have tried to take some electives in like animal science just to kind of get that like background of like, feeding and things like that and quality and of hay and stuff like that. But yeah, I probably should have taken more, but, sometimes I just couldn't get them into my schedule. Sure. The courses I had to take and the ones I wanted to take kind of overlapped. And this way it kind of works out sometimes, but I'm a good student, so I try to make the most of any class I'm in. And I don't know, I think I've definitely learned stuff that I've used. It's just probably been like subliminal stuff and not like the stuff on, stuff on top. So.
And in your family's farming situation, is there an opportunity there for you to go back and to farm full time?
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, maybe not for the first couple of years. We're a little bit overstaffed right now, but with the haying thing, I can basically take care of myself. If I had to, I could take care of myself for an entire year just with haying. But I know that the always need help in the spring and in the fall for sure, and kind of working more on that stuff. And then pretty soon I think I'll be in full time and still haying too. So trying to do jobs in the summer there, I guess, but should be fun.
Okay. Well, so has there been a National Star Finalist or winner from Superior High School before?
I want to say there has been one. I don't think there's been a winner, but I cannot remember. Um, Someone told me a while back, but I don't know. I think there could have been one or two, but I also think that this is kind of like this is the first one, so I can't remember for sure. I'm kind of I'm kind of leaning more towards there's never been one from Superior before.
Okay.
If I remember right, but
Wow. Well, that's cool. So, I mean, obviously, it's already just a huge honor, huge recognition of your work and your efforts and what's gone on there at Superior High School with your FFA chapter. If you come home with that award, if you're the National Star in Agribusiness, what's that going to mean to your community and to you and your family?
I don't know. I hope it means something to him. It's definitely been a lot for me. And of course I know it'll mean a lot to the family and the FFA chapter for sure. I mean, we've all, we've all been involved, and it's quite the deal. I'm sure it's really going to mean a lot to us for sure. And I guess that's all that really matters because, we were the ones, or I guess I was one out there doing the work, and I guess I was probably hard to handle sometimes with my family, but it's one of those deals. So it's definitely going to mean a lot to the FFA chapter and my family there. So either way, I think we're going to be really excited, and we're happy we're here. That's for sure. It's not every day you get up to something this high level. So
that is great. Well, good for you. Before we finish it up, I'd love to ask your advice for other students out there. I mean, obviously, you didn't start out with the intention of growing this business the way that you have, but you've seen opportunities, and once you started, another opportunity kind of opened up, and you saw another opportunity. What advice do you have for a student in FFA in high school who gets started down a road like this? Should they pursue those opportunities as they see them, come out in front of them?
Yeah, I really think they should. And to go one step further than that, I always say that when you pick out an SAE or find something you want to do for job even or whatever it is, you got to find something you really like doing, because like this with custom hay, not every day is a walk in the park. Like most days in the summer, like it is like terribly hot, and, things are breaking and I got to get stuff done and the rain's coming. But, in general, overall, I still like haying. I like getting out there and getting the job done. And that's what helps me, I don't know, develop and find those opportunities is because I like what I'm doing, so it makes it easy to want to expand and want to be bigger and better. I feel like if you don't really enjoy what you're doing, maybe you don't look for those opportunities quite as much as you do, or you should. So I feel like you really got to find something you like doing, something that you'll get up out of bed and want to go do it every single day. And I think that's how you find these opportunities and really get going. At least that's kind of how it was in my situation. Is I just kept looking for things because I liked it so much, and it kept growing. So can't argue with that, I guess.
No, that's great. Well, that's exciting, Blake. I'm very proud of you. Proud that you were on the show before, and proud to see where you're going now. Best of luck to you, and thank you for sharing this with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Once again, it was a great conversation.
Well, thank you to Blake Kirchhoff, and thank you to all of you for being here today. Really enjoyed catching up with him, and best of luck to Blake as well. Everybody, as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.